So hi, I've got the machine set up now. So what I've done is I've added the walking foot into place. Now you may have a walking foot like this and they're great. Feel a bit strange to put on and can be a little bit tricky, but basically what they do is the feed dogs that are the teeth that come up and down when you make the stitches. This gives you an extra layer of teeth that as the machine's making the stitches, these little plastic teeth engage with the fabric and it moves the whole piece together as one. Because sometimes what happens is the top layer will slide. Because I'm using spray, I find that has definitely reduced that happening. But what I used to find was happening if I just used pins is that the top layer would have moved across, and by the time I got to the end of the row, the layers were out. So a walking foot helps prevent that. And what you do is this bar fits over where the needle lock is. So where the little clamp is that you put the needle, where you put your needle in, this sits over. So as the needle is going up and down, it makes the foot move up and down. And this area here, it's quite tricky to see, this part fits onto the shank. So you take off all of the parts of the foot, unscrew at the side, take it off, and it fits from the back. I'll go over this more if anybody needs help with that. But the walking foot is definitely a bonus if you've got one of those. Now, threads, I'm using, for this piece of work, I'm using glide thread, which is a trilobal polyester. You can, quite tricky to see. And this is glide thread. And I love this particularly because when I'm doing ruler work, I love the sheen on it. You can see the sheen. It just works really well. But people often worry if something is polyester. So let me just show. I'm not putting a lot of force on, but it will snap. And one of the things that people used to worry about polyester threads is that they cut into the fabric. So these give you the lovely effect. There's no lint whatsoever, so it just flows through the machine. It's lovely. And particularly for free motion work where there's quite a lot of fast moving, I love them. I found them really, really good. Now, there's also, this is a sulky variegated thread, and I've used this quite a lot. This machine isn't so keen on sulky threads, but my other machine on the other side of the table, the smaller one, is absolutely fine, and I've used them a lot. Now this is 100% cotton, but the variegated thread, it's thicker, so I think you can probably see that more. And it tells you, so it's quite clever on the top as well, it tells you the size of needle to use with it. So it's a 30 weight, which is the weight of the thread, and it tells you the size of the needle, which I'll show you in a second. So sulky, that's another one. And one that is really easy to get hold of is Gutterman's. So I know, shopping has been quite tricky, and Gutterman's is readily available. It's sold in even haberdashery little shops, and this is a variegated one. Now this is 100% cotton, and this is also a 30 weight. So, but you can see quite how thick it is. Now I can see that there is lint on there, so it's absolutely fine, but you wouldn't use this for piecing. So just because you've got it in your box and you think, oh, it's grey, I'll use that, it's actually variegated. But don't use this for piecing, it's too thick. Now, so I've set mine on. Put a new needle in, be radical. Now, for your piecing, you probably will have an 80-12 needle in. I'm saying probably, you probably maybe no idea what needle you've got in. But for quilting, I use this Superior top stitch needle, and these are titanium, so they last a bit longer. But the size that's important, it's a 90-14. So that's what you want. Because now I like a top stitch needle because the eye is elongated, and so the thread goes through easier, and I like it, and it lasts much longer than just a regular needle. Not much more expensive either. But if you haven't got those, something like Smet's needles, but it's the 90/40, that's the size that you want for quilting. Okay, move these out of the way. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the centre of the piece of work. So a rule that I would always try to stick to is start in the middle and quilt out. So what we're trying to do is even up any pressure that we're putting on the piece of work by going in one direction, and then the next time we're going to go in the other direction. So what's a good point to start is in the middle. So I'm going to work from the middle out, and then I'll break thread, go back to the middle and go the other end. Then I'll come back to the middle and go across and across. So I've done a cross in the middle, crossroads, and that's just to stabilize the piece of work. So you could do it parallel. If you've got some stitch lines, you could sew parallel to that. You could sew along the stitch line. Stitch in the ditch, it's a bit of a joke in my classes because it's not my favourite way of quilting, and one of the reasons I'm not keen on it, it's actually quite tricky to get your stitch exactly in the ditch. I'd much rather sew parallel to something and make it look that this is an extra line and I meant it to go there. Whereas stitch in the ditch, if you've missed a bit and then you've gone back in the ditch, it can look a bit messy. So I know it's a bit of a joke in class, but I prefer to do something else. Now, if you can adjust your stitch length, make it much longer. So on this one I've gone up to 4.5 because we want to see our quilting, we want to see our stitches. It's part of the design, and all I'm going to do is those 4 lines and stabilise the middle, and then I can decide what I'm going to do further out. So the last thing you would want to do is start in one corner of your quilt all of that, and then work further down, because what will happen is just the pressure of the hands and the machine will push the wadding, everything will go out, and it'll be really difficult to get it back. So I'll do a bit of this and I'll speak to you later.